And I know I say this every time a new Garfield game comes out, but I do think this one looks like a ton of fun. But I am a little bit biased because dice worker placement is one of my favorite mechanisms, and the South Tigris series is all around dice and dice worker placement. But the way that this game works is that players are inventors competing to create, develop, and publish different inventions. And players are going to be working on shared invention boards, and they're going to be moving down a track through the different phases of their development, and players are going to be able to gain victory points based on their contributions there. What's cool about the way the dice work in this game is that they're going to be moving through different sections of your board, with each of those sections granting those dice with special benefits. Not only that, but players are also going to be managing a tower represented by these different tiles here, and on the tiles are a bunch of tokens that all represent different tradesmen. All these tokens start the game at the bottommost location on your tower, and then anytime that you use them, you're going to be gaining their benefit. Then they're also going to be moving up onto the next floor. What's really cool about the way that this whole tower works is that it's actually a tower that just goes on for an infinite amount of floors, because once all the tokens have moved up from the bottommost tile, all the tiles are then going to slide down, and then your bottom tile slides to the top, but then you're also going to be activating the ability of that tile. And like I said, this game is all about building and contributing to different inventions, and this is what a completed and tested invention looks like. But this is actually made up of two main components. There are the component boards and then the component cards, and you'll be able to combine these in any way that you like in order to form the invention that the players are going to be working to complete. And that's going to be moving through several phases out on the main board here. The game's going to start with a bunch of empty boards on the leftmost space, which is the idea phase of the invention. Players can use an action to add a card to one of these boards, but in order to do that, you're going to have to spend the associated cost as dictated on the board, which usually involves discarding some amount of resources, as well as spending a certain amount of die that adds up to more than the amount shown on that board. And once a board has a card on it, that invention can now be built, which does move it up to the next column underneath the board. And in order to do that, you need to also spend the dice in order to be greater than the amount depicted on the card. But then you'll also have to pay the cost to activate the required tradesmen out on your own personal player board. Once an invention is built, players can then perform a couple new actions on that invention. You can either choose to test that invention, or instead you can just go ahead and publish it. Publishing an invention works very similar to building it. We're going to have to spend the appropriate amount of dice, but then you're also going to activate a specific tradesman from your board, which is your scribe. Once an invention is published, players can still go ahead and test the invention, and that's what these three spaces are in the top left corner of that invention. And in order to take that action, you just have to spend a die that matches that same color, and that's going to allow you to move your boat along on the main board. Wherever your boat stops, you'll be able to take the associated tile there and add it to your own personal player board, granting you with some upgrades for when you place dice on those actions, allowing you to also get the benefit if the dice that you place there also meet the requirements of that tile. There are a bunch of different benefits that you'll be gaining for creating, building, and publishing these different inventions, and you will be getting additional benefits as other players make developments on an invention that you've already contributed to. One of these benefits gains you influence in one of the three factions, and this influence can be spent to perform special actions later in the game, but they can also be used to gain you victory points at the end of the game if you have enough influence in a particular faction, depending on which inventions that you contributed to. The game does play over a series of rounds, with each round ending with a scoring phase, and then you're also going to be scoring again at the end of the game, and then player with the most victory points at that point wins the game. And if you are interested in this one, you can check it out. I'll have it linked in the description below.